One of the great things about the Gemini machine is the sheer volume of pressure that it's able to exert across a full platform of, well, it's larger than A4 going through the machine at any one time. Now, in the past, it's never been a problem. The more intricate a die you've wanted to work with, you just try and put as much pressure as you can through that machine. And you would increase the pressure by adding in extra shims into your platform combination. What you've got here with the Gemini is, if you have too much pressure, it's not going to damage the machine, it's not going to damage any of the plates, but it will start and make your plates warp. Now, be prepared that the plates on a Gemini machine will warp in time just because of the pressure on the machine, but one way you can help preserve the life of those plates and also stop things like your cardstock warping is to adjust the pressure based on the die. Now, you adjust the pressure by changing the shims that you put in. So you always have the base cutting plate at the bottom and you always have the clear cutting plate at the top, or vice versa if you like to cut into facing down. Then you have 3 shims. So you have your plastic cutting shim, which is the cloudy one. You have your magnetic positioning plate, which is just another form of shim, but it happens to be magnetized to hold your dies in place. And then you have the metal shim. Now, I don't foresee circumstances when you would need to use all 3 shims in the machine. You just won't need that much pressure. But we've put them in so that you can adjust the pressure that you need. What I would always recommend is starting with just the plastic shim. If you need it, adding in the metal shim or the magnetic shim, depending on which one you think is appropriate. Now, how do you decide which one's appropriate? It's all about the pressure that you need in your machine. So I'm going to demonstrate this with one of our dies. Now, this is one of our 8-inch edgeable dies, and you would use a different platform combination depending on which way around you would use this die. So I wanted to explain to you, it's never about the brand of die. It's always about how many cutting points at any one time are going through the machine. So if you imagine we sat the die this way going through the machine. If I look across the surface here, at any one time I've got no more than 4 cutting plates, and this is when the cutting engages with your cardstock. So at no point is it cutting more than 4 or 5 times in one go. However, if I was to turn it around this way, at one point I could be cutting up to 20 at one time. So if you think, if we're this way around, you've got 100% of the pressure coming through the rollers. Worst case scenario, that 100% is getting split through 4 little knife edges cutting. So each one of those knife edges is getting 25% of the pressure of the machine applied to that one place. If we turn it this way, you have at any one time up to 25 cutting points. So then 100% of the pressure is getting shared across 25 cutting points, which means each one of those cutting points is only getting 4% of the pressure that the machine can offer. Now you can understand where the same die, cutting it one way or cutting it the other, the machine will be applying a different amount of pressure. So I can demonstrate that for you. I'm going to cut it up this way. So I've only got 4 cutting points, so I don't need a lot of pressure. So I'm only going to use the plastic shim. And you'll see my plastic shim already is starting to get warped, and that is just from this being used and not having the appropriate amount of pressure. It doesn't affect the working of this at all. It's just, sometimes it's not as convenient to position your dies on. So I'm going to put that in, put my cardstock on the top, put the cutting plate on the top, and offer this into the machine. Now when I take this out, yes, wonderful. You can see there that this is cut all the way through. Every single knife point that's raised up there through the die has cut beautifully. Now if I put that to one side, I want you to see me use exactly the same die. So I'm just going to lift this die out. Obviously if you were actually doing this for a project, you would have then embossed this and you would be doing this on the side of your card. But I wanted you to see, so I mean that really has cut absolutely perfectly. Every one of those is going to lift through, no problem whatsoever. Okay, and that is one of our edgeables. So you can see there it is on the edge of my card. Now I want you to see I'm using the same die, so I am literally going to sit and pop out all these pieces. So exactly the same die, exactly the same cardstock. This time we're going to cut it sideways. So I'm going to put this on. I'm going to put this on there. Now first of all, I'm going to offer this through with exactly the same platform combination, because I want you to see whether or not this will cut. And this is exactly how I envisage you doing this at home, trying it once through. If you're not sure, now look at that. So you can see that exactly the same die, exactly the same machine, exactly the same platform combination, but now it is missed all in the centre. It's only cut a few little pieces. That's because we just didn't have enough pressure. So you start off just by adding one shim in. So we're going to add the magnetic positioning plate. Put it in the same place. Now don't go and just add in the metal one as well, because quite often you won't need the metal one. The addition of the magnetic one is more than adequate. And we'll do the same again. You can hear it working harder. You can hear the machine drawing down more pressure as it takes it through there. And this is the trick. This is how the machine works. It's all about drawing down the right amount of pressure to cut that die. Now as I lift this up here, that's cut beautifully now. And you can see there, and any die cutting enthusiast won't even need to release the die from the card. You'll be able to see just how well all of this is cut. Now, if that hadn't cut, if this was an even more intricate die with more cutting points, instead of just straight away adding the metal one in, the next thing I would suggest you do is emboss with this. Now to emboss, you would take out your magnetic, you would add in your embossing mat. So I'm going to keep it the same way. I'm going to add in my embossing mat. And remember, you always replace the magnetic with the embossing mat. You don't add them in together. Offer this through again. And you can hear there it working even harder. We can pause that and return it back through, which means it gets double times through the machine, so it'll get an even nicer emboss. But if you emboss it, that should help with the die cutting. Or if you're not sure, you can emboss it and then send it through another time to die cut it again. But I can see there, that is die cut absolutely beautifully. And if I lift this out, just releasing the die up from the cardstock. And this is a very, very intricate die, so you do just want to be very careful. There you go. So again, that will be on the edge of your card, and that is cut through and embossed perfectly well, going sideways this time. So that should explain to you the different ways in which you can use your plates, even with the same die, which is why in the instruction booklet we don't say to you, use this platform combination with this brand of die, or this platform combination with this brand of die. Most thin metal dies are made in exactly the same way to a very, very similar specification. You alone can decide what combination of platforms are appropriate to use based on the intricacy of your die. And if in any doubt whatsoever, don't hesitate to contact our customer services team, who can help talk you through that with your specific die that you're working on.